Great to see you guys. It is live time. This week we're going to be going over cognitive overload and cognitive dissonance. Two topics that I wanted to cover for some time now, and things that I see come up a lot in training, in business operations, and in my own personal life. Both of these concepts can be harmful in business. They can cause you to be distracted and not get the information that you need to be getting. They, however, are very different concepts from each other. Let's start going over what each one of these things actually are. Starting with cognitive overload. Cognitive overload happens when the working memory receives information that it can handle comfortably, which leads to frustration and compromised decisions, and those decision-making skills that we have. This is something that can be constrained and struggle with, and in fact, I face it each and every day. I'm always being bombarded with information, requests, updates, things that don't work, struggles, challenges that people are having, and I need to open that up for them so that they can get that information. And I can see that. It can be very easy to become overwhelmed by all of this, and it is just tossed aside all the time. And you lock yourself in your office doing your job, at home, in your office, wherever it is. However, you can't do business that way. As the CEO of Becker Logistics, I have to make sure that I am there to answer any questions that our employees or customers or carriers need, and be able to give feedback and fulfill on the requests. One of the possibilities that I am is making a difference in this world. And I do so with our customers and with our employees. So what can you do once you start to feel overloaded? When you feel that you cannot possibly take this on anymore, this information overload. Well, first off, this is so important. One of my best mentors in life told me, the faintest ink is better than the best memory. So number one, we need to take notes. Make a list, write it down. For me personally, if I don't write it down, then there's a 50-50 chance it won't get done. Writing things down allows you to return to the matter later on without the risk of forgetting it completely. Otherwise, you have countless topics building up in your head that you're trying to keep track of. This is where I call it, put it on your calendar right there. The moment that you put this on your calendar, you're keeping track of your own items that you have to take place. So what happens is we take this overloaded information into our brain, and then something happens. There's too much of it, and then we think it's something else. And then we go do it, and then we bring it back to our boss, and we go, here you go, boss. And it's completely different than what we originally wanted. You have to understand the faintest ink is better than the best memory. Write it down, create that list, put it on your calendar, and now set up times to go ahead and complete that. Second, schedule your time. This is especially needed for those daily activities. This is about where I told you put it on your calendar. That it can be timeless and take on more time than you think. And as you unpackage it, there's more sinkholes or things that have to be accomplished. A great example of this is checking your email. When it's great to always be on top of your emails, it can really become a burden and an endless task and unneeded information as well. So schedule a time to check your emails that you can handle it all in one single block. So scheduling is so important. So number one, take notes. Number two, schedule it. Number three, remove all those distractions. Focus on the one thing that you need to be, and it's better to do one thing great than 5 things okay. And if new requests do come, and they keep coming, just make note of it, write it down, and revisit that item later. Number 4, you need to take breaks. This is pretty self-explanatory, right? Take some breaks throughout the day to give your mind a second chance to just relax. Maybe take a walk or listen to a song or two. Doing some push-ups. Just get away and get your blood flowing. This is really healthy for you to just move away and then come right back. And the 5th and final is break down those big projects. Begin with an end in mind. Stephen R. Covey wrote this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And if we begin with an end in mind, start with the end thing, whatever that request is, and work backwards, things are going to work really, really well. So break down those big projects. Some projects are so massive that they seem impossible to start. For the people that understand when I say Scrum, it makes sense. Agile, fantastic. Just thinking about it can put you into a cognitive overload without having certain tools at hand. And you might be thinking, hey, I'm doing a fantastic job. I got the request. I'm all good. For these, you want to break it up and work on the project in smaller chunks. It can also help to bring in some outside help as well. 2 heads are better than 1. This is where one-on-ones with your employees are helpful, and the manager can help get that employee back on track, and they might have to go through some emotional overload as well, right? But get them back on track to where they need to be instead of just letting your employees sit there for month after month after month or quarter after quarter after quarter or year after year after year, and then they're completely doing something outside of what you originally asked them to do. Okay, so you have some tips now to avoid feeling cognitive overload. But how do you take it to the next level? How can you make sure that you are not overloading others? This is very hard because who you are, they might not be. Let me repeat that. Who you are, they may not be. You have years and years of tools, years of schooling. There might be areas that they're weaker in than you are, right? This could be a planning issue. This could be a calendar issue. This could be an Excel issue. This could be taking on 5-7 tasks. This could be project management. Do they have their PMP, right? I mean, there's a new process, a new system, and a whole new culture that they have to learn. How can you teach all of this without overloading them? First, we need to strip all the fat away. Stop spending time and energy on the topics that do not matter. Only present what needs to be seen. The key ideas. What's the key ideas that are being taken away? Number 2, don't assume everything. The moment that you assume that they know everything, they went to school, they got their MBA, they totally know this one distinction, you totally you screwed yourself. You need to make sure that you are not assuming people already know things, even industry terms. This can lead not just to cognitive overload, but can lead to plenty of mistakes down the line, especially if they're management. Now they're taking those mistakes and handing them off to that span of control that they're dealing with. Number 3, use videos, right? We learn 3 different ways. We learn visually, we learn auditory, and we learn kinesthetically. So when you're talking to someone from that auditory, right, they can hear it, they can grasp it. The kinesthetic is the feeling aspect. How do they feel? Are you touching, moving, and inspiring them? Are they feeling at home with what they're being told? And the visual is pretty rudimentary. This is visual. We're doing it right now. You're watching me on your phone or at work on LinkedIn. So using the videos, this is great because it allows people to go back and revisit the topic when needed. This is why Becker Logistics has 3PLLMS.com as our provider for all of our videos. Also, they can pause, rewind, and when whatever's going on, they may just need to make sure that they're really absorbing that content and or going back to it. Number 4, break it up into chunks. We love taking information in by chunks. Break complex explanations down into those bite-sized pieces. And lastly, number 5, have a story or flow when possible. Having a story or some kind of progression makes information much easier to digest and connect to. This doesn't mean that you have to build some grand epic around your training about how we're going to Mars. No, but just make sure there's a natural flow to it. Go from A to B to C, not from A to G and then to W. That pretty much wraps up cognitive overload. It's, how would you say, it can't be unavoided. And at times, but there are ways to make it more manageable for you. I like understanding how many things am I dealing with right now, and then what things can I put on my calendar, and that way it's being handled already. And then what things am I going to have a quick little note, and what am I delegating? Now, what is cognitive dissonance? Let's take a look. Because there's a lot of times that people get these things like mixed up. So cognitive dissonance has to do with holding contradictory beliefs about ideas or values, right? This could be cognitive dissonance that's used to describe the mental discomfort from holding two conflicting beliefs or values, right? It's the feeling of like when you have or are doing something that you know you shouldn't be doing, but you decided to do it anyways. An example of this would be you are on a diet, but then you come across a bag of candy, like caramel candy or white chocolate, or dark chocolate, and you finish the bag before catching yourself. Especially, like right now I'm on a cleanse trying to get all of this 2020 weight off. Had about 20 extra pounds that I didn't want. Need to get that off. So having 2 kids around with bags of candy, it's very tempting, but you got to push that away. So when you realize that you finished the bag of your kids' candy, you probably say to yourself, that isn't a big deal because you worked out 3 times already this week. Well, in reality, you know it's not what you should have done, right? You just messed up your whole diet. Now, I didn't do that. I'm using it as an example, right? But that feeling when you have that action, eating a bag of candy, did not align with your belief, or being on that diet is what cognitive dissonance is. So, and this isn't something that always has to be a negative. You could be feeling dissonance from something as simple as deciding to help a team member out when they're in a jam, and when you hold the belief that everyone should be accountable for their own actions. Don't get into those traps. Additionally, cognitive dissonance could lead to you getting rid of harmful beliefs you may hold, right? Listen to that inside talking that we do. Because when you feel cognitive dissonance, it's natural to examine the beliefs you hold and why you do. When faced with cognitive dissonance, there are really only 3 options that can change your behavior, change your beliefs, or justify your beliefs and behavior. Let me review those. You can change your behavior, you can change your beliefs, or you can justify your beliefs and your behavior. In the candy example, the behavior of eating the candy was justified by telling yourself, or myself, that you had gone to the gym 3 times that week. That's how you justified it. There is no right option to take, right? It's all dependent on how strongly you hold your belief, your ideal, or your value. I have values that, listen, I hold them so tight, integrity, authenticity, being cause and matter, and taking things on larger than myself, that you're not going to be able to take those away from me. They're strongly held beliefs where I can exercise leadership as my natural self-expression each and every day. There are, of course, some actions you don't want to just justify, like murder. That's a cause of changing your behavior to, not murder. The best way to reduce cognitive dissonance is to know which values you believe strong about and know why you feel so strongly about them. And then show these values through your actions each and every day. And if you are training a team or a manager or an employee, it can be quite easy to cause cognitive dissonance. Trust me, I see it even with myself. And here's some easy pointers to prevent that type of thing to happen. Number one, you need to set the example, right? Don't talk about how important it is to be paying attention while looking at your phone, right? Don't be doing this. Yeah, it's really important to not pay attention or to pay attention while you're looking at your phone, right? Don't do that, right? You want to make sure that you are doing the things that you are teaching, right? Number two, be consistent. This cognitive dissonance thing is rooted, right, in inconsistency. So by being consistent with your training and behavior, you can help reduce it. This should be especially shown when you are changing and challenging up anything that you're working on. Let's say you're changing the culture or the strategy in some way. If you used this in all of your individual processes and now you're focusing on teams, you want to make sure that you are making this change and it is sticking to it. They're sticking to it, you're sticking to it, the team's sticking to it, the whole company is sticking to it. Otherwise, mixed singles are being sent to people and they won't know what model or actions that they're supposed to be copying off of or following. I find this a lot with different managers. You could have two people that, one person that says, no problem, I'm a company player, I'm going to do this, and through in and throughout, I got it. Number two, the person that has cognitive overload and they've got so many things they didn't really pay attention. And then you got the cognitive dissonance that says, no, we need to lie. And we're not going to follow that value of integrity, right? So now who's left? We got one person out of three. That really doesn't help. Let's go on to number three. Explain why the certain values and beliefs are so important to the company. For example, openness and sharing might be important to the corporate culture, which may be difficult to some people, right? That is because it's typically reserved for private meetings, right? They don't want to be open. They're private. So being open would result in some cognitive dissonance for this person or team. But if the idea and the importance is explained, that purpose is pushed forward well enough, then they should be able to just justify their new actions or their changes in their values. Number four, allow open conversations. I leave it really open. You can say anything you want with me, especially in my office. On a Zoom, it's just you and I. Say whatever you want. I'm fine with it. I can handle that. Make sure that if someone feels something that doesn't line up, that they can bring it up to you. Also, open conversations are always a good idea for training and, of course, something that should already be done right now in your corporate area. And something that's pretty much covers cognitive dissonance is you have to be aware that it's happening. Be aware that cognitive dissonance is happening or cognitive overload is happening. This concludes the cognitive dissonance part. And high cognitive overload can lead to cognitive dissonance really, really easy. Because when your mind is overloaded, it's easy not to see the whole picture. And then suddenly be doing behaviors that don't align with your values or your beliefs or the company's. So in conclusion, I want to just say with this information, I hope that you are not only able to avoid cognitive overload and cognitive dissonance in your own life, but you can also reduce them when you are training new employees. When you are putting together a new process or a new procedure, make sure that you are able to explain it in a way that works for your team, a way that is consistent and easy to understand. That way, you know that each piece aligns with the values of your organization and your employees. The last thing I want is for you to understand that I'm not going to overload you with information or cause any type of dissonance. So with that, this concludes our LinkedIn Live and our regular live on all of our social medias. So thank you very much for tuning in. Today is Wednesday, and this concludes our live chat with you guys today. Thanks a lot. Don't forget to follow if you're not following. Click the little follow button. It's right up in the top right-hand corner from where you're looking. Thank you very much. And also like. Appreciate it. God bless. Have a great week.